It's good to be back to my usual studio, folks. I hope 2025 is kicking off well for you. Here in LA, everything's on fire, but, we're doing the best we can out here. And so is Overwatch 2 in the midst of the Marvel Rivals fire that is encroaching on them, that has kind of taken a lot of attention away from Overwatch, which once upon a time was the de facto hero shooter, but Marvel Rivals, it seems to be well on its way to taking that crown away from Blizzard, and I'm very curious to see what the developments surrounding Marvel Rivals will be like in 2025, depending on how they handle their upcoming seasons and the cadence of content releases. The streak that they're on right now may very well hold true, while Overwatch's downwards trend may continue. I want you to take a look at numbers for Marvel Rivals right now because they're absolutely insane. The game peaked at 408,990 players during its launch period. This is a pretty sizable number of players for a free-to-play live service, but more importantly, it has pretty much retained similar numbers throughout the course of its entire launch. And these are just Steam numbers that we know of. I mean, just right now, 348,000, almost 349,000 players are playing. 24-hour peaks encroach the all-time peak consistently. You can see this chart is just kind of almost like a straight line that's also kind of starting to trend upwards again because of the new Season 1 that came out recently. Whereas if you look at how things are faring for Overwatch 2, the all-time peak obviously isn't as great because Overwatch 2 did initially launch on Battle.net, and do keep in mind that this doesn't show the full picture as a lot of players do play on Battle.net as well, but you can kind of get a general sense of how the game is trending. You can see that after the Steam launch, we saw a decent cadence of players kind of coming into play through Steam, but then there's this downwards trend that is starting to happen, and we're seeing numbers dip into some of the lowest we've seen from Overwatch 2. I think it's too early to say that the game is quote-unquote dying, and I do think that Overwatch is ultimately too big of an IP to completely die off, but it definitely doesn't have the foothold that it once used to have. And you can see that right around November, a new hero did release for the game, and even then, numbers didn't fluctuate to a level that you'd expect. In late November of 2024, the new hero Hazard was revealed and was made playable. During that time, you can see that Overwatch's numbers rose a little bit, but then we see this downwards trend as some attention is definitely being drawn away from Overwatch 2, with streamers and content creators also kind of favoring Marvel Rivals more, with the general goodwill and sentiment surrounding Marvel Rivals definitely being at a greater place than it was when Overwatch 2 first launched, as a lot of people feel like Marvel Rivals not only launched as a pretty feature-complete package, but in some ways it's doing things better than Overwatch 2, or it harkens back to how Overwatch 1 did things, with many people preferring the way Blizzard handled Overwatch 1 in terms of monetization and aspects of the gameplay balancing and etc. And even on consoles, you can see that Marvel Rivals is outperforming Overwatch quite significantly. So Forbes reported here that if you look at the most played Xbox games right now, Marvel Rivals is sitting at a pretty solid position of number 8, while Overwatch has fallen all the way down to 19th. And then on PlayStation, you can see that Marvel Rivals is in the top 10 at exactly number 10. Beyond that, they don't show what games are placing like, but Overwatch is nowhere to be found on the top 10 list. So Marvel Rivals is dominating the hero shooter space at this moment, definitely stealing the spotlight away from Overwatch, and I'm curious to see as to whether that will stay that way. And if the current course of content release continues, that may very well hold true. Something that people have been impressed by is how much content they are releasing for just Season 1. Pretty explosive Season 1. It usually doesn't tend to go like this. So here is a Twitter user who highlighted how this is not Marvel Rivals adding the same amount of characters in one season that Overwatch adds over the span of a year. And this is absolutely true. So in Season 1, Marvel Rivals is introducing the entirety of the Fantastic Four. 4 new playable characters in one go in one season, Overwatch could never. Their cadence of content release being as slow as it is one of the major criticisms surrounding that game. But Marvel Rivals is just kicking off running in a way that could spell some trouble for Overwatch if this kind of momentum continues to build for Marvel Rivals. And just to give you an idea for how aggressively Marvel Rivals has been competing against Overwatch, recall that Overwatch 1 launched only with 12 heroes back in 2016. That number eventually ramped up to 31 heroes by the end of Overwatch 1's life cycle. Then Overwatch 2 launched with 34 heroes. Overwatch 2 now has a grand total of 42 heroes, but to get from 34 to 42 heroes, it took roughly 2 years and 3 months to add that amount of heroes. And then when you look at how Marvel Rivals launched, it launched pretty strongly with 33 playable heroes and villains, which is about what Overwatch 2 launched with. And then in just the first season, it's introducing 4 whole new heroes in the form of the Fantastic Four. In comparison to Overwatch 2, which introduced 4 new heroes in the entirety of 2022, then 3 new heroes in the entirety of 2023, and then another 3 new heroes in the entirety of 2024. In one season, Marvel Rivals is doing what takes Overwatch 2 an entire year to do. And if Marvel Rivals can keep that momentum going, and if they don't slow down their role and continue to leverage the immense slew of characters and source material from the Marvel universe and continue this level of output, then this is going to be a live service that's going to be pretty active and will definitely pull attention away from a much slower content releasing Overwatch 2. There's just always going to be something exciting going on with Marvel Rivals, assuming that this is the kind of cadence we can expect moving forward beyond just season 1. And like season 1, them setting that tone, that immediate kickoff momentum from the outset gives a lot of confidence for what the future holds for Marvel Rivals. It's almost like the exact opposite of what Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League did when they launched season 1 with the Joker. The content was so sparse. The way they handled Joker's character launch was so poorly done that season 1 actually ended up slowing down the momentum of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League because it set the tone for what was to come, and that's exactly what ended up happening with future seasons. Whereas with Marvel Rivals, it feels like this is the game sending the message that, they're pretty serious about the volume and consistency of content output for the game, and making sure that all of that content feels substantial. And there's just so many heroes and villains in the Marvel universe that it really gives Marvel Rivals an advantage that Overwatch 2 doesn't have, as Overwatch has to essentially continuously make brand new characters, whereas Marvel has so many existing characters that they can leverage to be able to output heroes at a faster rate, and hopefully, at a quality that one would expect from such content releases. But the bottom line is that Marvel Rivals, in terms of the critical reception, the goodwill from the community, and content output, the way it's handling monetization in a more favorable way compared to how Overwatch 2 did it, in just about every sector, it feels like it's outpacing Overwatch 2. It feels like it's going to catch up pretty quickly, and it's definitely going to put Blizzard on its toes. That's not even mentioning the fact that according to leakers, there is some kind of PvE mode in the works for Marvel Rivals, and that's one area where Overwatch 2 really dropped the ball. They made grand promises about their PvE modes that they ultimately did not fully deliver on. They delivered a shadow of what they had originally promised. If Marvel Rivals can leverage that and deliver a PvE mode that feels as substantive as what Overwatch originally advertised and can surpass them at their own game, then Marvel Rivals could very much overtake Overwatch, I think, at the pace that they're going right now, if they handle all of this right. And it's not just the hero shooter genre where Blizzard stands to lose their crown on. In the realm of isometric dungeon crawlers, you've got Path of Exile 2 dominating over something like Diablo 4. Again, there are a lot of people playing on Battle.net as well, so this might not paint the full picture, but the way that Path of Exile 2 has been encroaching on that genre, the amount of positive reception that it's been gaining, and the kind of numbers that we're seeing for this title, highlight that you've got a lot of other developers who have ideas for how to improve upon genres that Blizzard might have standardized or that Blizzard might have become kings on. Blizzard is starting to lose the crown on a lot of the genres that they have established. What bars they've set are being exceeded by other developers who are taking that genre and handling it just as well, if not better, or, innovating in ways that make those experiences unique, provide some kind of distinct draw, as Blizzard starts to become a bit stale in the kinds of outputs that we have seen from them over the years, especially as Activision's influence has seeped into the company that once used to be more autonomous and just a lot more free in their creative capabilities. So, Anna, I'm curious to see how Blizzard will respond, whether they'll have new games in the works that will be, standard setting or bar setting as far as types of genres for games are concerned, whether their current major IPs will be able to compete against the encroaching competition that are, kind of in many ways starting to surpass their own endeavors. But yeah, as far as Marvel Rivals is concerned, it is starting to dominate the hero shooter genre. It is starting to look like a bit of an upset in the way that like Fortnite upset PUBG in the Battle Royale genre. So I'm curious to see how all of that will play out, whether Blizzard will take measures to retain their dominance or whether we have a new king of hero shooters in town. But I suppose only time will tell. In the meantime, though, I'd love to hear what your thoughts and opinions are on how Marvel Rivals is performing as a free-to-play hero shooter in comparison to Overwatch 2, and how you think this will pan out in the future. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.